Hello guys, Omni here. Just finished episode 4 of The Mandalorian, and after Deborah Chow set the bar so high last episode, this episode continues to keep that ball rolling with Bryce Dallas Howard at the helm this time around. You know, not still maintaining the action while giving us some time to breathe in this episode, while expanding the characters, the universe that we're building in this corner of the galaxy, as well as introducing some new faces that I'm pretty sure we're going to start seeing popping up maybe a little bit later in the show as well. But that is yet to be seen. Now, before we get into any spoilers, I do want to say I adore this episode. I think this is a great time to be a Star Wars fan. The show is just delivering on something that is just fresh but familiar in such a great way. And I've said that probably a few times at this point, but I love this episode. This is just another solid episode, and I hope that anybody can go ahead and dive right into it before we go into spoilers here. Because if you haven't seen the episode, go ahead and tune out now and come back when you have so we can have that conversation after the video in the comments. But I'm going to go ahead and talk about the episode and what I liked about it. And this episode is kind of keeping the Western theme, the Western tropes in line. This is a story we've seen a lot in the Western genre. After last week's episode, the kid and the Mandalorian are now on the run, and they're trying to find somewhere to lay low. And this is the first planet we've seen actually get a name so far in the show. This is a planet called Sorgan. And from what we've seen of it so far, there's a cutaway before the Mandalorian shows up or lands there of a local village, a village of farmers kind of, bringing in their crop, bringing in their harvest, and they're assaulted by these alien raiders that are attacking the village and running off with their plunder. And apparently this is something that keeps happening. So that kind of sets up this, the outsider who is brought in to protect the community kind of storyline. That's where we get more of those Western vibes. But that said, this really kind of nails it in the way they execute this and makes it very much a Star Wars feeling to it. But the Mandalorian lands on this planet trying to lay low, and he parks his ship because there's no starports, there's no main hubs or trade routes or anything like that attached to this planet. So seems like a good place to lay low, right? So he parks his ship well away from any of the towns and pays a visit to a local cantina, trying to figure out what's going on, what the layout of the land is like. And I think it's kind of funny because he runs in there, and that's where we finally see Gina Carano's character, Cara Dune, show up and in the corner of this little cantina. And what I think is kind of funny, because it kind of comes off like the Mandalorian, because he's asking her about, is there anything going on, if you can tell me about, because he sees her eyeballing him when he comes in, which gets kind of paid off here in a little bit. He asked this waitress if she knows anything about Gina's character, because he's getting some shady vibes from her, right? So he does that thing. He was like, I need some more information. So he throws some extra credits on the table to pay for, a little extra. And she's just like, takes it as pure kindness, not like a bribe or anything. Like, oh, thank you, sir. And that's it. And I honestly think he was wanting to bribe her for more information about Gina and her character. And it just shows that this is really a simple, humble area. And I think that was kind of cute, because it seemed like a little naive on his part to just kind of think everybody in these types of situations is just kind of seedy. So this is probably a little bit foreign to him in that kind of way. But when he looks back after confronting her, Gina's gone. So he starts tracking her. He pays her some more credits to keep an eye on the kid while he leaves him there, ordering him some soup. And he goes out there, he does this little tracking thing that kind of gives him this predator vision, shows him some tracks outlined for him in his visor of where Gina was going, and then the tracks suddenly disappear behind the building. And then she just drops down as she was lifted up on this pipe, and they just go at it. And you know what? They duke it out, and it was awesome. He doesn't hold back, and that's what I appreciate about it in this. It really doesn't do anything to lessen their combat, and just raises and shows, one, that he doesn't discriminate at all, and she keeps up just as well, and they best pretty much each other before their fight is interrupted with them both on the ground, guns drawn at each other, and Baby Yoda just like, Dad, what is happening? What is this? It was adorable. But they end up talking after that, because the reason she found him shady was because she noticed he was part of the guild. She's an ex-shock trooper of the Empire, and they share some stories and whatnot, and she's just kind of retreated to this area as well, also trying to lay low. And because she recognized that he was part of the guild, she thought he might have been there to find her for whatever reason. Maybe somebody put a bounty on her head. They realize that's not the case and they part ways. The local farmers or whatever, I guess word spreads here because of what happened at that lodging, that cantina. But some farmers are aware and they also kind of saw his ship come in from space and land somewhere. So some people from the farmland uh, tracked his ship down to try to ask for some help with the raiders. And of course, he's like, "You don't have enough money." "But sir, this is all we have." They talk and it was like, again, we've read stories about your people. I mean, your tribe. We can't even defend ourselves or anything like this. And there's no one around. They're in the middle of nowhere, and that catches his ear because he's like, "In the middle of nowhere, huh? Maybe people won't come looking for us." So he takes them up on the money and the lodging so that they can at least maybe lay low in their farm as kind of a quid pro quo situation. And they go there, and we get the widow character from the opening where she was protecting her daughter. It was something we kind of skated over. Her name's Omera. Gives him lodging in her home, and the timing, the pacing in this episode is a little rushed with how much gets covered in this. Now you don't really get a good gauge on how much time is passing, though there is a line in the later part of the episode toward the ends that shows that the span of this episode happened within a couple of weeks. It wasn't just days or a day or anything like that. Actual weeks have passed, so that makes it a little bit more lenient on some of the things that feel kind of rushed as far as the interpersonal relationships that develop throughout this, because there is a little bit of some heat between the widow and the Mandalorian. She seems very much interested, especially with how she's helping him and he's helping their village defend itself. The kids in the village just take to Baby Yoda, and it's so cute watching them play with him. They watch him catch a frog and all this kind of stuff. They're just playing around, adoring it. He's loving it here. And it's just, oh, so cute. To help with the raiders, the Mando ends up hiring Cara Dune, takes those credits the farmers pulled together to get him to hire her to help him defend against the raiders, until they find out that the raiders also have an AT-ST. And then they're just like, "Nope, nope, nope, we can't do this. We can't do this with just two people." And Mandalorian makes the suggestion that, well, then we teach them to defend themselves. They'll be our extra people. It's like, who can shoot? Funny enough, the widow was like, is the only one that could raise her hand. So somehow, some way, she's experienced with a blaster, and it shows because we get a training montage of them like learning how to use the spears, them building up these barricades to funnel the enemy in. Good old war tactics. We've seen this kind of thing in all kinds of media, and again, they do this very well here. Though when things kind of go off towards the end, you're kind of wondering, like, well, couldn't the AT-ST could have just blown everybody away? But anyway, the plan now is for the Mando and Cara to engage and bait the raiders out of their camp. And they go in, they sneak into the camp, they set a bomb, and then they just start taking out some of the people that managed to catch them in the tent. And the fight in this is just raw, visceral, and great. And Gina Carano does an amazing job in this, just kicking butt. And the Mando, they seem like they just have a really great chemistry too. The way they play off of each other, the way they work together, the way they're just kind of their banter and their just general air towards each other. I really like that, and I really hope that that's another character like IG-11 that I hope comes back. Before we're kind of getting ahead of myself just a little bit here. So they bait them away. They manage to fight their way out of the little scuffle they got themselves into until the place blows up the tent. Obviously getting their attention. They lure them back to the farm, and that's when things get crazy. And then all the action breaks out. People are just blasting, speary, pokey. And then they struggle with the AT-ST because they built like a giant pit trap. And it stops just shy. Mando disintegrates some more people, and she borrows his disintegration rifle, the pulse rifle that he's using, and just charges at the AT-ST and takes root underneath it, trying to bait it into the pit trap. And the way they work together, the way this all plays out is really great. But it's still, as far as the farmers, I feel like there should have been way more. I get the tone of the show, but I feel like that AT-ST could have just obliterated them without ever having to step into that pit trap. That aside, that out of the way, I don't care. It was just really awesome how it all played out. Very typical, very tropey, but I still enjoyed it. It was well executed. All of this was well done. The action was really well choreographed and put together. The effects, the visuals, everything. Great. Awesome. The acting across the board, great. Gina Carano, please come back, because at the end of this, after everything's said and done, she does go her own way. They part ways and they kind of do their little hand clasp and hope our paths cross again. Lo and behold, during this whole little period, these weeks that are passing, the Mandalorian seems to be building a little bit of a relationship with the character Omera in this. And, she asks about the helmet, about why he doesn't take it off. Does he ever take it off? When he last took it off? And he says, the last time I took it off was yesterday. He's like, when's the last time somebody saw your face? And since I was they're no older than these kids. Was the last person any other person had ever seen his face. And he takes off his helmet for a moment after she leaves to actually eat. So that kind of answers a question I'm sure a lot of people had up to this point. But it's kind of like that luchador thing. If you're seen without the mask, you're no longer able to wear the mask again. And that's kind of what he plays off, because Gina Carano even asks him about it as well. Is like, she likes you. There's something there. You could raise the kid here, have a life. You could settle down. You don't have to keep being on the run or anything like that. Just take off the helmet. What's the big deal? It's like, Mandalorian saved me. If I take this off, I can never put it back on. And she's like, that's it. That's the only punishment. But I'm sure there's definitely more to that. There's definitely a pride and a more tribal element to that. That's pretty much part of his soul at this point. And you can definitely feel that he is really gauging his emotions on all of this throughout. And I know you can't see his face in that, but the way his body language is, the way he moves, the way he reacts, the way he speaks, it very much seems like he's contemplating these things. And it's not something that's not on his mind. I'm sure it's a temptation of his, but he thinks it's a great place to leave the kid. So that's his plan. It's like, it's too dangerous of a life to bring the baby Yoda along with me. It'll break his heart to tear him away from these kids. The kids will miss him. Leave him here. But nope, can't get any goodness out of that. And I was like, oh, well, yeah, I would have felt fine if that was the last we saw of Baby Yoda. They had a great run. And then, of course, we get to see a bounty hunter creeping through the woods with a tracking fob, going after Baby Yoda, and he tries to snipe Baby Yoda. You hear the gunshot. And honestly, I thought, with the way this episode is going, I thought this might just be the way Baby Yoda goes. I honestly thought that it might go that way. Maybe Game of Thrones just ruined my ability to tell if a show is just going to take the shot or not. And but thankfully, I released a heavy sigh of relief when Gina Carano appears from behind the guy as he falls over with her blaster in hand and taking out the sniper. It being revealed that their location has been compromised, of course, whether the Mandalorian wants to leave the kid or maybe even whether or not he wants to stay there himself, now has to move on because it's compromised. He cannot keep the kid here. He cannot stay himself. So they leave and depart. And that is our episode, man. The tension, Baby Yoda must be protected. Must be. Please. But I love this episode. There was a lot of really adorable moments, great performances. But like I said, the whole relationship with the Widow and the Mandalorian kind of felt rushed until you get that little line at the end where it says, we raised some ruckus about a couple weeks ago, I think is what they said. So we don't know exactly how long it's been. Multiple weeks have passed since they fought the Raiders, at least. So there has been time that he spent here on this farm with these people that we just haven't seen. So that aside, really great. Everything works out. Loved this episode. I loved it. And every episode has felt distinctly different from one another while keeping a smooth through line kind of tone. And I really like that about this show so far. It's not jarring going back and forth from this, but again, it does seem very much like a Clone Wars series up to this point, the way we're changing locations, we're following the characters, and we're just getting these short little nugget stories. And I like it. I love how the show is just progressing. And with it being an 8 episode series, I really want to know what the conclusion is going to be with this. I know um, that we've already got a season 2 that is being shot right now, and it makes me wonder what all they're going to do with this. What all's going to happen? How is this going to play off? Is Baby Yoda going to continue into season 2 or not? As long as he stays alive, protect Baby Yoda. Anyway, there's really not anything else I can talk about this. Everything was awesome in this. I really want to see Cara Dune come back and them work together again, because I think their partnership, just like IG-11, like I said earlier, the way they worked off of each other and their banter, their chemistry was just so good. And those three are the cover shot on the Mandalorian page when you're looking at the episode. So I hope either IG-11's been repaired, it's another IG model that he just builds the same kind of relationship with, and they just kind of all team up, and he gets that crew that he was kind of starting to build when he offered Quill a spot on his ship, the Ugnaught. I have spoken guy. And I'd like to see him have a team kind of grow his own little family unit, as we would like to see. That's kind of like the Star Wars thing. You start off as the loner, but then you warm up and you grow a family, and it becomes about your unit. And, maybe that's not what everybody wants, but I think it would also soften and strengthen what we're learning about him, as seeing his relationship play off of other characters, see how he builds and works off of other people, multiple points of view and stuff like that. And then you really get some more depth going out of it, growing out of it, and with those interpersonal relationships. That aside, awesome episode. If you've watched it, I'm passing it off to you guys. Sound off in the comments with your thoughts on this episode. Where do you think it's going to go from here? And we'll carry on that conversation in the comments after the video. Thank you guys for watching. I'm sorry this went on a little bit longer than the last one, at least, and I appreciate everybody that's hanging out here. If you're still here, please support the video. If you did like the videos, like, comment, and subscribe. I would really appreciate that. I appreciate everybody that's been helping the channel grow here in the past couple days. And this being Thanksgiving week, I am thankful really for everybody that has participated in the comments, liked my videos, or even just watched. Just the channel is already a lot bigger than I ever expected it would be. So I'm thankful for all of that. Thank you guys so much. I hope you all had a great holiday if it's something you celebrate. But that aside, I will catch you guys in the next episode, and may the Force be with you always. Take care, everybody.